My name is Sasha Paulin, and in this portfolio, I will be critically reflecting on my learning journey in EDUC1050. I am studying an English History secondary education degree and aim to teach both English and history in the future. As I embark on my teaching career, I have a few goals for my future classroom. Firstly, I want to promote self-directed learning in my students and help them construct their own learning goals. I feel that it's very important for a student to want to learn, not just memorize facts for assessment. Secondly, I hope to inspire higher order thinking and help our future leaders explore their own understanding of the world around them. Finally, and most importantly, I wish to encourage reflective learning in my classroom. The TPAC framework refers to technological, pedagogical content knowledge and the relationships between these components. This framework highlights the difference between these three forms of knowledge and the interactions between and among them. TPAC emerges from these interactions, and it is the basis of effective teaching with technology. Within my chosen teaching disciplines, technological knowledge is very important. Both history and English require skills of presentation, and there are many ICT tools that cater for this. Additionally, history has a strong focus on researching, and it is important for students to know how to use ICT to find reliable and relevant sources of information. Our first task required us to curate an online resource focusing on one component of the Australian Literacy or Numeracy Learning Indicators. For our board, we decided to split into two sections, triangles and quadrilaterals, to address the two factors in our chosen learning component. Within these sections, we had a range of resources, including videos, quizzes, worksheets, and games, because as we had learnt through our readings, this helps accommodate to all learning needs. However, we did find some challenges in making this Pinterest board. We were overwhelmed by the amount of resources online and how different they all were. Because of this, we decided to make our own content resources. This slightly undermined the point of the Pinterest board to curate online resources. I feel that this challenge arose mainly due to our inability to master TPAC. We couldn't find a balanced relationship between technology, pedagogy, and content, so we decreased the technology aspects, creating our own content. We discovered that this was a mistake in the feedback that we received on our presentation. By doing this, we sacrificed our visual appeal and ended up with a very basic layout. Aside from this, we did find Pinterest an easy way to allow students to access helpful resources that will specifically cater to their learning needs, as we as teachers could make sure they were only shown ones that we saw appropriate. I think Pinterest is a useful technology to curate resources to aid in revision and practice, but not to teach content. Our second task required us to collaborate and create a Prezi focusing on 2 Level 5 capabilities in investigating ICT. We split our Prezi into an introduction, 3 weeks of learning and activities, and an assessment task. Within each week, we introduced a new form of ICT, including Pinterest, SmartArt, Kahoot, and finally for our assessment task, Canva. We also incorporated group work into this plan as we were finding collaboration as an effective way to learn. The first and probably biggest challenge that we found in this task was deciding how to split our content up and create an appropriate lesson plan that flowed. This was because we lacked the pedagogical knowledge of how long it would take students to learn certain amounts of content, and obviously we didn't know how much lesson time we would have per week. We mainly received positive feedback from our classmates, however one did say that our assessment activities were unoriginal. I think this was due to us having limited technological pedagogical knowledge, as we struggled to find resources online that suited our teaching needs. This was a big challenge for us in this activity and the final one, and we ended up reusing a lot of ICT resources throughout the course without finding many new ones. Hopefully, over time, I will learn of new ICT resources that I can utilize in my future classroom. In the context of a history depth study, we found that Pinterest was a lot more useful and suitable as a tool for students to find and evaluate appropriate resources in their study. Prezi was a useful tool to create a lesson plan and assessment activity that spanned several lessons. It allowed us to present an outline of the course and flowed through the content well. Additionally, this tool was very easy to use, and I will definitely be using it in my future classroom, as it makes it so easy to create a detailed course outline. Our third task required us to create a micro-lesson on the 2 capabilities in communicating with ICT Level 6, focusing on perspectives of people from the past. Our PowerTune consisted of a paired activity involving analysing perspectives and answering prompt questions on Padlet, a group activity involving curating resources on Tumblr, and a Socrative activity for giving the teachers feedback. We found it challenging to incorporate activities into our PowerTune microlesson. This was because it seemed to interrupt the flow of the PowerTune, and although we wanted to give detailed instructions for the activities, we knew that by the end of the video, the students would have forgotten all of the instructions and would have to go back. This is similar to the problem we had in our Prezi activity in structuring a lesson plan, and hopefully something that over time we will learn as pedagogical knowledge. Overall, I still found that PowerTune is an excellent ICT resource for the classroom. It's visually engaging and fairly simple to construct, which would make it perfect for content delivery. You could include an activity, but it would be best to do it at the end of the PowerTune so that students get the appropriate amount of instruction and can go right into the activity. In the past, my ICT use has been very basic and simple, mainly using PowerPoint, Prezi, and sometimes Padlet. For me, ICT has always been a taken-for-granted tool that I could use to present my ideas and nothing else. However, through this course, I have discovered new, innovative uses for ICT that I hope to incorporate into my future classroom. I have learned that ICT tools are deeply complicated and must be specially crafted to ensure students are engaged and constructing their own knowledge and skills. My experience has made me more aware of a concept that Darren Watson discusses, the difference between students learning about and learning with computers. He highlights that many ICT tasks still support lower order thinking, which, as I highlighted in my teaching aims and goals, is something that I strongly wish to avoid. I have learnt that a greater focus needs to be placed on complex and context-driven tasks in order to promote learning and higher order thinking in my students. This has led me to think about the different models of microlessons and which models I might want to integrate into my future classroom. In their study of microlessons, Divaharan and Wong state the individual mind functions within the environment. I particularly like the problem-based learning model of microlessons and its ability to immerse students in a problem and allow them to come to the knowledge on their own, promoting self-directed learning. My group used this form of learning in our PowerTune activity, in which we presented an image and asked students to tell us what was happening in the image, and then asked themselves why they might think that. A seemingly simple task becomes difficult when students are presented with the prompt questions on our Padlet, and this forced them to think deeper about perspectives. This is a new learning model for me, and I think it's a great way to use ICT to encourage learning, and one I will certainly be using in my future classroom. I have learnt, particularly through my first curation activity, information is not a scarce resource online, which, as Fisher and Sugimoto identified, creates a poverty of human attention. Therefore, it is important for me as a teacher to contextualize information and teach my students their own skills of curation. The main insight I have gained in my study of this course is that ICT learning is very complicated. I will need to continue to reflect on whether I am effectively creating relationships between my technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge in order to be an effective teacher. Thank you.